everyone, we made it to episode 100 of the Dynamic Continuum. Today we're going to go talk, I guess, revert back a little bit and talk about how we got started and how we've gotten to this point. Continuum Ag started over 3 years ago now, almost 3.5 years ago. And really the basis of it started even before that. It was during my freshman year up at Iowa State. I got an internship with E4 Crop Intelligence out in western Iowa. And during that summer, I knew I wanted to get into consulting. So I started working on business plans with a guy named Dave Stamp, who's still one of my main business advisors. Dave and I were sitting down, putting together business plans, putting together ideas on what it's going to take in order to fully be on my own, running a company in less than 3 years, based on that timing. As far as once I got out of Iowa State, if I'm going to be able to go and run a company full time, we've got to have some benchmarks that we're going to meet. So started developing business plans at that point. That would have been the summer of 2014 is when we started developing those plans, and knew that wanted to help people to implement precision agriculture, improve their agronomic situation, and be more profitable on their farms. So that was kind of the basis of it at that point. My second summer, after going back up to Iowa State, I went up to Minnesota to a company called Inez Consulting, and through Inez Consulting, that's where I learned about soil health and Brookside Labs, and just developing a deeper understanding of the soil and working with farmers at that point. And that's where I developed a data management system to managing soil health data. And now, of course, that has grown and grown and grown, and now it's its own separate company, being senior management, which we'll get into that later, and I've talked about that a little bit. But now that data analytics tool becoming its own company with its own opportunities at a global scale. But during that end of that summer, that's where I met my first customer, which was a consulting group from South Africa, and they were needing some of the same things that we were, which was, how do we interpret this soil health data? How do we help our farmers to improve and be able to utilize better data? So I helped them to manage that data, and they turned into my first customer. And at that point, it was, okay, here's a real company that can get started. Let's make it happen. Let's do it all very officially. So kept in contact with Dave Stamp, like I said, and sat down with him, and we were figuring out, okay, what's the name of this company going to be? And originally it was going to be, I can't even fully remember now, Hora Technology Services, I believe, is what we were looking at as the name of the company, and that just wasn't quite as catchy and exactly what we wanted to do. So we started brainstorming and whatnot. How we eventually got to Continuum Ag was, we were talking about agriculture, and we've always got to continue to improve. So we were saying, you got to continue improving, continue on that path, whatnot. Wanted to tie in the name and whatnot a little bit, tie in my last name. Hora is Czechoslovakian for peak or a mountain. So always wanted to keep climbing, climb to higher peaks and climbing those mountains and whatnot. And in agriculture, always trying to get better. So that's kind of where that name was coming from, is continuing to get better, and then landed on Continuum, and a continuum being a sequence of events which perceivably are the same, but when you analyze them at a much higher resolution, you find that each of the components are quite distinct. And that, I think, is my approach to agriculture and to the soil, is that we've been treating everything as the same for decades of farming, but now we know that there's so much more individuality in the soil. There's so much more components that get down to a much deeper level. So that's where the continuum comes from, and now we assess the soil as a living dynamic continuum, and the whole premise of the video series and everything all relates back to that, and I think it really rings true, which brings me to kind of the logo, and wanted to get into the story on that a little bit. That the triangle kind of a setup is representing mountains, as far as the Hora being my last name, mountains and peaks and that kind of stuff, and always trying to do better is where the logo kind of comes from, that overall shape, with Continuum Ag being the catalyst in the middle to be able to help to improve and do things better. I think each of the edges of the triangle are different components of that as well, and there's a lot of different meanings that could be plugged into the logo, but wanting to maximize profitability, improve yields, and improve sustainability. wanting to look at the soil as a living dynamic continuum, looking at the three components of soil, which are the chemical, physical, and biological properties of the soil. Just a lot to it that can be explained with that logo, but wanting to continue to do better, improve, always trying to reach the top, looking at things at a much deeper level. That's what Continuum Ag is all about. We look forward to continuing to document that process and continue to improve what we're doing in a day-to-day situation, improve, help on your operations, find the best tools to help improve global sustainability and continue to do things at a much better level, provide better information, and keep being a leader in agriculture going forward.